Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. Welcome to Eye Improv Conversations with Gabe Mercado. Gabe Mercado cannot be with us today. So, on behalf of Gabe Mercado, I'm Carl Echaluce, handling the show. And, improv, everybody knows improv as a enjoyable, interactive theater experience. But not many know that the origins of improv actually were in education when Neva Boyd, the grandmother of improvisation, was first working in the Hull House in Chicago in the early 1900s. She taught problem solving, communication, and all of that through interactive games and theater games, which eventually became the source of Viola Spolin and Paul Sills' work. So improvisation and education, not necessarily in the classroom, have been intertwined from the very beginning, and it's actually quite a happy coincidence and uh, a great fact that right now improv is still used by very many teachers in the classroom for a more engaging and deeper experience when working with students. Today, we have three different teachers who use improvisation and have many principles of improvisation integrated into their teaching. And I'd like to introduce them all at the same time. We have Patring, Cervantes, Ariel Diction, and Jeffy Kiambao. Welcome all to the show. Hello, Patring, Jeffy, Ariel.
Hi,
Hi, good
morning.
morning.
Hello,
Magandang
magandang umaga.
magandang umaga. First question up. What do you guys love most about? What do you enjoy most about teaching?
I guess I can go ahead. I teach four levels of. I teach the four levels of law school. So I see them as shy, confused, and lost freshmen. But what I love most about teaching is meeting them again in their senior year, and meeting them as more confident students, more confident human beings. So it's that transition that I love most about being part of teaching these students.
Oh, thank you very much, Patring. So law school. You're in law school.
Yes.
Okay. Let's hear from the others.
Sige, I'll be the next na. I've been teaching for 14 years already. Yung 6 years doon, grade school, and then ngayon, nasa high school ako. I'm a music teacher, and what I love most about teaching is yung building relationships with the children. Yung everyday yun yung nami-miss ko ngayon. Yung everyday you receive hugs from them, they run towards you. Tapos yung makikisabay sila sa lunch or even recess with you. And yun. Thank you.
Okay, Ariel.
Ako naman siguro matagal-tagal na rin akong nagtuturo. So parang feeling ko bawat stage nung pagtuturo ko may iba-ibang parang flavor ng ito yung gusto ko. Ngayon, ang flavor ko ay knowing when to eject the teacher outside the classroom. Parang because I'm teaching university students also. So knowing that being sensitive to that, when do the students need you and when do you tell them it's okay to press the eject teacher button, or maybe kailangan ko sabihin, shucks, kailangan ko na yata i-eject yung sarili ko ngayon kasi it's time for them to learn on their own. Yun yung nandun ako sa exciting middle ground na yon. When do you press the eject the teacher button?
Oh. That's quite interesting because maybe that's also something that was sort of forced upon us with the last year, with suddenly all of us jumping into distance learning and having to do that all of a sudden. How did you feel that during the past year? Na parang forcibly na-eject kayo? I think I'd like to start with Jeffy kasi yung iba medyo, kasi si Patring at kay Ariel, matanda na kahit papano eh. Pero sa'yo, how has that adjustment been, Jeffy?
Sobrang hirap. Like, nung nag-announce ng community quarantine last year, we're gearing towards graduation. So patapos na. Malapit na yung final exam ng mga bata. Tapos biglang, akala namin 1 whole week lang na walang pasok. Then the next week, babalik na. Tapos, ito na tayo, more than a year na. Second school year na online yung mga bata. Sobrang, whenever I go back sa school to get some materials for teaching, naluluha ako kasi ang tahimik ng mga hallways, walang tumatakbong bata. Walang nagchichikahan ng mga bata, of course, namimiss ko din yung mga sasawayin mo nag-aaway ng mga bata. Pero yung talaga sobrang nakakalungkot. And I look forward to going back to school again.
Yeah. How has it been in law school, Patring?
I think it was a difficult transition in the sense that when we had on-site classes, madaling takbuhan yung teacher for feedback or for extra clarifications, things like that. And I think those informal side conversations in the hallways were as important as discussions in the classroom. Pero ngayon, because of the pandemic and we're doing online work, the onus or the burden of learning is really on the student, diba? How do they self-regulate? And the problem for us is how do we monitor their progress? No? So it's become very difficult because we don't have those side conversations with students anymore, and we're not able to pick up on a lot of the visual and non-verbal cues na, ma'am, nahihirapan na ako. No? So that's something that we're trying to adjust to.
That reminds me of something that Harrison Owen said when he was coming up with the open space method. Sabi niya, often the most important conversations that happen in a conference are the conversations that happen during breaks. Because that's when people are, I think, more let their guards down and aren't so much about being in front of a microphone and making a point. Ito, lumalabas talaga yung bumabagabag sa kanila. And they can be more honest in one-on-one conversations. Ariel, ikaw, naging takbuhan hindi lang ng mga estudyante, but even co-faculty when you were transitioning to online teaching. What was that like?
Oo, at first to good din yun, Gabe, because of
Carl.
Carl,
Yes,
sorry.
yes.
Forced to good din akong gawin yun, Carl. Kasi dahil nga may inassume na isa pang role, which is the coordinator for the transition of our online learning. So and I think rin kasi yun, kailangan mong makita kung nasaan, kailangang marinig mo kung paano naghahalo yung personal at professional na mundo ng teacher. Also. And I think narinig ko rin to sa isang kaibigang teacher na para kasi siguro the personal is also professional. Kasi gano'n yung sinabi mo, Gabe. But Carl, yung usapan sa labas ng classroom, di ba? Even yung usapan sa labas ng classroom, yung usapan sa pantry ninyong mga faculty, not necessarily just the exchange of materials, but how your students are nagsahalo yon. Tapos ngayon ng pandemic, the teachers felt suddenly more vulnerable. Parang dati feeling nila mas nasa poder sila as the managers of the classroom, as facilitators of the classroom. And then now nawala yung physical space na yon. So naghalo yung personal at professional talaga differently, palagay ko. Ayun.
Right. Let me go back a little bit. All of you have taken improv or teach improv. What was your journey like getting into it? And immediately, did you already think na, uy, ma-apply ko to sa classroom or sa pagturo?
I can start. The person who got me into improv is in this room. It was Ariel. We were taking a formation course in Ateneo, and he was in my sharing group. And I noticed that
Okay.
everything that he shared about himself, whether it was about his teaching or his life, he was able to connect with his improv practice. So na-curious ako, and I enrolled in a class because of the integrity that I saw in Ariel and his improv practice. Pero starting out with improv, I never thought that it was something that I would apply outside of the improv classes. Kasi parang
Okay.
the structure of the first level is games eh. So parang hindi ko pa naisip na
Yeah.
magagamit ko siya in teaching. Yeah. It was only later on when I got into it more that there are very concrete experiences which I can relate to teaching.
And we'll get into that a little later. Jeffy, sa'yo, what was your journey into it?
My first experience was way back 2012, yung Improv Fest. Dun sa
Okay.
Makati. Yep.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
we had a photo. Ayun. And then, sorry. Then, forward to 2019, dun lang ako nagkaroon ng lakas ng loob to try yung teaser class. And then, na-in-love na ako after that. Nag-enroll agad ako ng level 1 with Teacher Ding Dong. And mapapansin naman nila, I think, masasabi ni Ding Dong na every lesson namin dun sa check-in and check-out ko na nare-realize ko, uy, pwede to sa teaching. Or, uy, applicable to sa ginagawa ko. Uy, applicable to dun sa profession ko. So, lahat ng principles, very applicable dun sa teaching profession ko.
Very nice. Ako, may connection ako kay Ariel na kakaiba sa'yo pero may similarity sa'yo, Patring. I first met Ariel when he was in first year high school. And I was in formation with an organization called the Ateneo Christian Life Community, which is the lay arm of the Jesuits. And I was a formator there, and I already met him and Missy when they were in first year high school, and I was in university then. So
I think you were
it's a
fresh
very
grad,
similar.
Carl.
Or I was fresh grad na ba?
Tama, fresh grad, tama. Oo. Because you had the
Or
student.
fourth year.
Oo.
Kasi magkasama kami ni Bingoy minsan eh.
Yes.
And Bingoy was
Oo.
more involved. Oo.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Yes. So your story, Ariel. Sorry.
Oh,
Similar
yeah,
na. Oo.
yes, at parehong nasa formation, parehong nasa larangan ng formation. Yes, ako naman, I think ako naman, baka noong una, hindi ko alam na nagagamit ko na yung improv. I mean, look, when I started teaching with Third World Improv, that's when I realized I was hard selling improv too much to my class. Or parang masyado kong, I was in my head na paano ko magagamitin yung improv inside the classroom. Only when I started teaching with Third World Improv, saka lang ako naging mas mindful na, shucks, yung pala mga ginagawa ko, I somehow aligned already with how improv, how teaching and improv and how you draw, how you make the students look good. Na sila yung bida, hindi talaga yung teacher. Tapos, ayan, dahil nga tungkol sa formation, baka dahil din nagtuturo kami sa Jesuit school, baka yung Jesuit principles ay yung pedagogical method ng isang eskwelahan ay similar, ng eskwelahan na pinanggalingan namin ay similar sa mga values at principles ng improv. So parang eventually nagtatagpo sila kaagad.
At ano ang Latin term for that?
Nang alin? Nang nagtatagpo?
Hindi, nagloloko lang ako. Pupunta na tayo agad sa questions. Si Ana, how has improv given you better insights to be more engaging or progressive as a teacher? Sinong gustong unang, who wants a first crack at that?
Well, in the tradition of I've started, several times earlier. I guess I can go ahead no, for this.
Napaka-spontaneous mo talaga, Patring.
Naisip ko lang kasi, no, context. In the law school, the preferred method of teaching is the Socratic method. So outside of those in the profession, yan yung tinatawag natin na recitation, di ba? And then there is the perception that recitation is brutal, that napapahiya yung mga estudyante. And this is how the Socratic method is portrayed in media, 'di ba? In the movies that we watch or in TV shows, 'di ba? Yung parang pinapahiya yung students. But I feel like the Socratic method actually mirrors, I mean, if it's used in the right way, it actually mirrors some improv concepts. Like yes and, yung tatawag natin na yes and, making your partner look good. And if this is true, what else is true? What do I mean by that? The Socratic method, in theory, is exploring assumptions and then testing them in a logical manner until you reach the truth or what you want to teach. Diba? And because it was bastardized by law professors who made it into an ego trip, diba? When you try to reflect on the method, paano ba siya talaga dapat gawin? And when I was working on scenes in improv, I realized that yes, this is like the Socratic method, in the sense that you first have to listen to what the student is trying to say, and then if this is the truth or the assumption of the student, what else can be true about it, diba? And then you continue to just dig and dig and dig until you reach a common conclusion. And I think it also mirrors another important improv concept where there are no mistakes. Diba? So every detour in the dialogue is an opportunity. It's like an opportunity to explore other perceptions or other perspectives that in the end, as you argue and as you dialogue, parang strengthens a position. Diba? So you allow these little detours in the conversation para lang matest mo yung iniisip mong totoo. And so I feel like Socratic method is precisely what improv is about. Diba?
That's the first time I have heard that connected. Kasi nga, yung Socratic method talagang in the teaching profession, nandyan yan, enshrined. But to relate it that way and so well, that's the first time I've heard of that. Thank you. Others, Ariel, Jeffy, thoughts on that?
Sige, I'll be the next. Yung principles like yes and sinabi na ni Patring, and active listening. So since yung subject ko, I'm a music teacher, no? So a lot of students will think na minor subject lang yan, madali lang yan. I will not give a lot of time or I will not give a lot of effort kasi minor yan. So nangyayari siya talaga eh. Nung face-to-face pa, I started exploring methods like ginawa ko yung differentiated instruction when it comes to the product of the students. So may set of competencies that the students need to achieve, pero yung product nila, instead of just singing, other students can play instruments, other students can dance. So yun ang pipili sila kung saan sila magaling. Yun ang ginagawa ko sa class ko, even up until now na online yung learning. And nagawa ko yun kasi may mga students na, I don't know how to dance, I don't know how to sing, I don't know how to do this. Sir, ang hirap ng kanta. So sabi ko, bakit hindi natin i-apply na kung saan siya magaling, doon tayo mag-focus. So active listening, I listen to them. So
yes.
And gumaang ang buhay ko as a teacher kasi nakukuha naman nila yung competencies and nagagawa nila yung gusto nila. Nag-e-enjoy sila sa ginagawa nila. And that's one of making them look good as well. So lahat ng principles ng improv na apply. And lastly, yung yes and. Kasi like nung nag-online last year, magsasalita si teacher and then walang nagre-respond. So sabihin, ano bang gagawin ko? Paano ko ba sila ma-engage? So I started saying, guys, nasa TikTok live ba ako? Kasi parang binabasa ko yung questions nyo, sinasagot ko. So anong gagawin natin? Help me. Tapos and then yun, nag-start na silang mag-open up, magsalita, and mag-chat. Yun lang.
Ang ganda. Parang natutuwa ako dun sa approach na yon that, not everybody can be a singer or even an instrumentalist, but everyone can have a good appreciation of music through what you're good at or what you're comfortable at. Kung magaling ka
Yes.
namang sumayaw, meron ka pa rin sense of beat, sense of the surge in the music, sense of feeling the music, at hahanapin mo pa rin yung mga bagay na at mas may understanding ka sa
Yes.
music dahil in-explore mo through dance. I love it.
Exactly. Ang
I
mahirap
love
lang
it.
dun sa part ng teacher is yung mag-create ka ng rubrics to grade them. But then again, isang upuan lang siya eh. Pero for the
Oo.
convenience, or for the comfort of the students. Yan.
Oo. I'm partial to the 363-dimensional way of grading. At ang tawag ko doon ay the rubrics cube. Ariel,
Oo. Kasi nga salamat Gabe dahil nga 363 squares 'yon ano, yung sa rubrics. Sa rubrics cube. Oh. Ako I resonate with Jeff. Yan. Doon sa kasi ang klase ko naman ay Filipino. Katulad siguro ni Jeff na parang ang dating sa mga estudyante, bakit ko ba 'to kailangang kunin itong required class na 'to? At pangalawa, let's face it, iba-iba talaga ang skill level ng Filipino language use, whether yung 4 skills ng reading, speaking, listening, writing ng mga estudyante, even at the university level. So similar to Jeff, natuklasan ko rin eventually yung saan ka magaling? Saan ka nag-shine? And it's really a call to awareness also for the student na kaya meron akong parang tell me that story type na exercise every start ng semester for the past 2 years. I asked them to write a timeline for my class sa writing. Tinatanong ko sila kung ano-ano ang iba't ibang languages na natutuhan or nabitawan nila throughout, their simula ng pagkabata nila hanggang college. So it's an inventory of bakit ba andito ang Filipino ko, ba't andito ang English ko, bakit andito or for that matter natututuhan ko rin, Cebuano pala si student, kaya mas bihasa siya sa language na iyon at sa English kaysa sa Tagalog or Filipino. Tapos sa literature class ko naman, an inventory of everything that they have read, watched, music that they've listened to, and up until now, what moved them. And it helps me get to know the student as a person. So yun yung aking tell me that story na exercise para din pagdating sa project na I consult with them kung ano yung gusto nilang sulatin. I understand hopefully where they're coming from because of that very first exercise at the start of the class. So yon, yung telling me that story so that we can move forward together kung saan kita pwede i-facilitate na dalhin towards the project of this class. Yun, ganun ang aking improv injection.
Ang ganda. For the people watching over our different streams, may quiz po tayo. Please summarize the top 3 points from the discussion. Put your answer in the chat. May mga comments tayo. HMB. I wanna be a teacher because of all the improv people I've met who are teachers. Ang ganda. Oo. Sabi ni Jenica, siya rin medyo nagulat at how improv principles fall in well with the Socratic method. At merong isa hindi ko na ifa-flash kung sino, pero pakisagot po at pakiseryosohin. Ano po ba talaga ang relationship ng Socratic method sa Hippocratic Oath? Go.
Well, Patring, maybe you can do it first.
I think ang relationship ng Socratic method at Hippocratic oath ay nag-a-apply sa mga magjowa na abogado at saka doktor, no? So kung yung doktor naghi-Hippocratic oath siya to remain true to the lawyer jowa, and then pag may mangyaring hindi maganda, gagamitin ng lawyer jowa ang Socratic method to find out what the truth is. So yun ang naisip kong relationship between the two.
Thank you, contestant number 1. Contestant number 2, Jeffy Camgao.
Yes. Yan ang improv, no? So, like what I tell my students, no, especially face-to-face, may mga questions sila na, Sir, paano to? Ang sasabihin ko sa kanila, sige, babalikan kita, gawin nating assignment yan for next week. Thank you.
And finally, contestant number 3, the relationship between the Socratic method and the Hippocratic oath.
Yes, I see it from an administrative educational institution level, where when you can put up a law school, why not put up a medicine school to go with it? That way, you marry the Socratic and Hippocratic in one educational institution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And from medicine and law, we go to philosophy. Sabi po ni Andres, the Lundagin mo baby philosophy of the revered Father Roque Ferriols feels like a very good manifestation of yes and. Now, bago po natin talakayin yan, alamin po natin how can we best explain what Lundagin mo baby means para kay Ariel at kay Patring. Ano bang sinasabi ni Padre Roque pag sinasabi niyang Lundagin mo baby?
How I understand it is take that leap. Diba? Take that leap. And therefore, it has something to do with having faith in yourself and faith in everything. I think kaya nga din kasama to sa philosophy of religion. Kung di ako Pero yun, it's taking that leap. Parang pagsabi ng yes, kahit di ka sigurado, di ba? Ayun. So yun, taking that leap. Kaya lundagin mo, baby. Ayun.
Oo. So, relating the Lundagin mo baby statement of Father Roque Ferriols and the moment of the Magnificat in the Annunciation of Mary. Patring, how would you relate that to yes and?
I would relate that to the yes and no. Kasi yung Magnificat of Mother Mary, let it be done unto me according to your word. No? So, meron ng gustong mangyari ang Panginoon, but it required a human being to participate in that plan. No? So, same with yes and lundagin mo baby. No? It just, and I think I also relate this with yung laging pinupukpok sa amin ng improv teacher namin na make a concrete offer, make a choice, make a bold choice now. Kasi parang feeling ko, all of these things just tell us, you'll never really know until you make that first step. Diba? All the things that are paralyzing you in fear or in anxiety, hindi mo sila mako-confront until you take that first step, you try something out, and then figure it out from there. No? So I think yan yung mga yes and Magnificat, lundagin mo baby, make a bold choice. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Patring. And finally, Jeffy, as a student of, as a teacher in Colegio de San Agustin, we must go into the theology of Saint Augustine of Hippo, who said famously, nostrum inquietem domine donec requiescat in te, which of course means.
I'm sorry.
which of course means our hearts are restless,
restless
Lord,
until they rest in you.
Yes, absolutely. So how can you relate that to anything we've discussed already?
Like Saint Augustine, yun yung sinabi niya eh. And sa school, yun yung ending ng prayer namin. Our hearts are restless until they rest in you. So everyone is restless na hanggang sa makita niya si Lord. Hanggang sa ma-achieve nila yung or makita na nila or mapunta na sila sa araw na makakasalamuhan na nila ang Diyos. Like sa Ateneo, si St. Augustine din ay nag-improv. Kasi prior to his conversion, nag-yes and siya. Prior to his conversion, may narinig siyang boses, tinatawag siya. Ang sabi, tolelege. Ang sabi, take and read. So, binuksan niya yung Bible, dun siya nag-convert. Kaya, from a very sinful person, he converted into being a saint. And I, thank you.
Thank you very much. So, if you're just joining us, happy Sunday. It's a beautiful Sunday. We are here in Eye to Eye and we're talking to Patring, we're talking to Ariel, we're talking to Jeffy about how improvisation has helped them and how they apply improvisation in their profession as teachers and in managing classrooms and working with kids. Yes, Teacher Ariel.
May tanong ako sa mga teachers, pati sa iyo, Gabe, siguro as an educator. Because yung sa improv, si isa nating teacher, si Teacher Ding Dong, lagi niyang sinasabi yung trust the process. Lagi niyang sinasabi yun. So ang tanong ko sa mga co-teachers ko din na nandito, how has that informed your way of teaching also? And parang can you grade that? Can you grade process? Hindi ko alam. And I'm talking talaga from a teacher's perspective kasi parang ang feeling ko sana lahat na lang A kasi kung alam ko lang yung process na pinagdaanan ng batang to, A na siya, pero depende syempre sa output mo. So yun, how do you understand, how do you incorporate trusting the process? Does that inform your teaching?
Ayun, go Jeffy.
So, sa start pala ng school year, when we are planning yung lessons for the whole school year, naka-scaffold na lahat. So, first lesson, nag-uumpisa na kami until matapos na, or makapunta na kami sa day na ito na yung performance ninyo, submission na. So, naka-scaffold siya, and then sasabihin, sir, nakalimutan ko to. Sabi ko, di ba ito yung process na ginawa natin? Di ba nag-start tayo dito? Balik ka dito. Aralin mo yung kanta. So, ganun. Until na ma-reach nila yung day na kailangan na nila mag-perform, kailangan na nilang isubmit yung assessment, nagagawa naman nila. And I'm proud of all my students kasi ang gaganda ng mga ginagawa nila.
I think I'd like to go next. Bagamat I am an educator, I am not a teacher in a traditional institution. I run Vivistop Baguio. We are a maker space and we are a creativity accelerator for kids aged 8 to 15. So they learn and they are educated, but we're not a school. And that is deliberate because that makes you have rubrics, that makes you under DepEd, that makes you, kasi there are ways of doing things that are accepted and that are good, but there is innovation outside of that as well. So wala kaming rubrics. And we're all about process. So what happens in our place, kids can come to us with their ideas for projects in science, tech, engineering, arts, and math. So we're a STEAM center. And we're project focused. We provide the mentorship, the materials, the guidance to complete these self-determined and self-motivated projects. And so improvisation is a huge, huge help as a background kasi hindi kami, ganito kailangan nating gawin to. For example, build a rocket, build a bottle rocket. We don't necessarily have to follow all the set module manuals. We make it together with the kid who's interested in it. We follow his interest as well, and we're able to adjust the pace while still we're pushing a little less kasi these projects are driven by their own interests. So no, we're not a school. And if we were a school, then the rubrics uh, and the traditional methods would matter. But being in education, but not in a school setting, helps us in that sense. And they're still learning that way.
Sa amin, sa law school, intuitively, ang hirap i-apply ng trust the process because we have a specific standard, which is the bar exam. No, so like
Yes.
you want to make sure that everybody who goes through law school will pass the bar exam. But when you think about it in the context of the law school, trust the process is actually an important part when you're dealing with adult learners. But there's only so much that teachers can impart to their students, but a lot of the learning really has to happen from the part of the student. And the only thing that teachers can really do is to make these lessons real to them, personal to them, and concrete to them so that they'll remember what these topics are or what these themes are. And so if that becomes real and personal and concrete to them, then hopefully it will help them remember things come bar exam, diba? When you asked about whether this is something that we can grade, I just realized that obviously we can't really grade it on paper. But another important thing that I've developed as I matured in this profession is the need to give students feedback, qualitative feedback, to encourage them that you're on the right path, you're doing well. It might not show in your grades, but I'm seeing the progress in you. And I feel like students these days need to hear that. It's affirmation, it's encouragement, and it's really empowering them na, just exert a little bit more effort or be a little bit more interested, and you'll do well in this profession. No? So I think that qualitative feedback like that is important in the law school because we're not only producing legal technicians, we want to produce responsible agents of the law, diba? You want to make them compassionate, you want to make them people who respect the human dignity of others. And so you need that human interaction between teacher and student so that they can model something when they become future lawyers.
Oh, absolutely. I loved how you put it. We don't want them to become legal technicians.
Yeah.
Totally, good at what they good at the intricacies and the minutiae of law, but somehow walang humanity or walang ability to relate it to higher ideals of society and civilization. Max. We have a lot of comments. People are enjoying this conversation. And thank you, Ariel, for bringing that up. Sinabi ko rin sa kanila that they can ask questions of each other. Sabi ni Doc Rob, my doctor, in a different light, how has being a teacher naman help you become a better improviser?
Ako for fun lang ha. Yung mga kwento ng mga
Oo.
estudyante ko, dinadala ko sa eksena. So, they also become my models for scenes. And yun nga. So just the practice of listening to other people and being more exposed to what's in right now and what's relevant to young people, and you can bring that into your scenes also and make it a more enjoyable experience.
Thank you.
Ako totally the same with Patring. Sobrang yung mga kilos ng mga bata, the way they talk, the way they converse with others. So na-apply ko siya, even yung characters. Yun.
Ako plus one ako. Plus one ako kay na Jeff tsaka kay Patring, ganun din. Yung kwento ng mga estudyante or yung characterization or yung issues nila na naiintindihan mo. Pero how has being a teacher helped you also become a better improviser? Mas hindi na ako nang aago ng eksena. Kasi, kasi being a teacher, actually, nag-bleed sila sa isa't isa. Ako, I admit, I always steal scenes. Alam to ni Gabe, kasi naka-arte ko na rin si Gabe ng maraming
Oo.
beses sa theater. So, talagang ang tendency ko ay manghingi ng pansin lagi. So, pero I think nung as I matured talaga as an improviser and as a teacher, nakita mo na nga na less and less yung about you. It's really about your scene partner. It's about the students. It's learner-centered, not teacher-centered. Kasi ako, I admit, dati parang, ay nako, ang tingin ko sa classroom ay theater, and that's how I wrote in my journals. Ano? And then, ngayon nga, ang sabi ko nga, di ba, how to eject the teacher nga yung aking journey, di ba? Yung parang it's how can the teacher be in the background or, you know, dahil yung student yung nandun. Or yung, in that case, yung co-improviser mo, di ba, yung scene partner mo, kwento niya, objective niya sa eksena na to, yun ang palabasin natin. So, yun po, Doc Rob.
Ako, I think I have to share the same insight as Ariel. Pero syempre, mas intelligent yung akin. Yung I did have the tendency before as a teacher in improv and in the various things that I do, na gusto ko, teacher ang bida. Teacher ang mabenta, teacher ang brilliant, teacher ang fount and source of all knowledge. At ijo-Diyos ako ng mga estudyante ko. Because I thought that was the hallmark of a great teacher, to be known as a legendary teacher. But as I grew more in the profession, I grew more as an improviser. And I matured, parang nakita ko it's not about how good you are or how brilliant you are, but your measure is how your students grow, how they learn, how they can outshine you and become better than you. And parang that's the objective of the teacher. And as a background, many years ago when we first put up Third World Improv, one of the first objectives that we had that I shared with Spit when we put up Third World Improv is we are going to make our own replacements. We are trained, our objective here is to become irrelevant and to be phased out by our students. Let that be our objective. So far hindi pa naman nagsa-step up yung mga estudyante at nandito pa kami. But the objective is there dapat, and improv taught me that. Improv taught me that it's not about you, it's about how to make your students, people under you, look good. Nax, ang dami ko sinabi. Wala namang nagtanong. Sabi ni Andres, does merging improv values and processes into teaching make it more fun for you, or does it make teaching, in fact, more challenging?
Ako, sasagot ako dyan. Naniniwala
Sige.
kasi ako na hello din sa mom mo, Andres, na isang mahusay din teacher. I think, yung pag-i-improv at pagtuturo, yung pagtatagpo nito, ay natutuhan ko na mas naging aware ako na may mga times na, fun kasi mastered ko na yung ginagawa ko. At ang saya nun. And eventually, I became more comfortable. Hey, I am being challenged. Parang hindi ko na alam to. Parang may tinatanong yung estudyante na hindi ko na alam. And how do I build on that? How do I see that as something that will make him look good? Not just me look good, pero parang kumbaga accepting, being comfortable na, nandun ako sa stage na kailangan ko palang i-upskill yung sarili ko. Kasi bored, baka yung fun, naging boring na siya, di ba? Kailangan ko na siyang i-push yung challenge. So, yun yung aking sagot. Parang yung even the challenge, you say yes to that challenge and build on that and see that, hey, meron akong pinanggagalingan pwedeng meron ako, yun ang gagamitin kong tools, di ba? Meron na akong inventory ng tools. How do I use that so that I can push myself to the next level? Yun po ang aking Miss Universe Beauty Pageant na sagot.
Thank you, contestant number 3. Jeff or Patring, you wanna take a stab at it? Or pwede rin we can ask. Yeah, go ahead.
It's really fun. Actually, it made my lesson planning easier. Kasi like yung simple games lang for finishing the lesson. So nakapag-games na sila. And ang pinaka gusto ko dito na nag-transform sa akin as a teacher. Dati kasi, yes, but. Lagi yun ang ginagawa ko sa mga bata. Then nung nakakilala ko yung yes and, I said, oo nga no, hindi mo kailangan ipahiya yung bata. Pag, let's say may sinabi siya, sir, kasi ganito yung nangyari. So yes and. So mag-agree ako sa kanya, pero dudugtungan ko siya. To the point na magkakaroon ng conversation na mapapagaang yung conversation and hindi mapapahiya yung bata, which actually will make the kid look good. Yan. Thank you.
Napaka-traditional nung method ng magpapahiya ng bata, ano. Napaka-traditional. And you know, one of the things before I have a thing, and that was a standard way to teach in theater, directors, etc., whether locally or abroad. Talagang kailangan ihiya yung mga actors. Theater, despite that all, was a very, very traditional and pahiya school of teaching before. So go ahead, Patring.
For me, honestly, it has relieved a huge burden on me as a teacher. And I think I share the sentiment which was mentioned by Ariel and Gabe earlier, no? Na as a young teacher, I always thought that it was my responsibility to make sure that, you know, everybody learns and that all parang knowledge comes from me and I'm just transmitting it to this class of 50 students. But having improv values and processes has relieved that burden from me, that some of the best types of learning comes from the learners themselves, and it actually helps the lesson stick to them a lot more than if it were just dispensed by me and that they just had to memorize it. No, the other also is one of my greatest fears and challenges as a teacher is not everybody in the classroom wants to be here, or not everyone wants to listen to me, diba? And that has really made me a very insecure teacher when I was very new to this profession. But the process and values of improv where you engage your learners has removed that insecurity from me. Kasi parang now you're really encouraging people or your students to invest in the class and to co-create with you or to develop how the class is going to progress. So hindi na ako kailangan maging parang entertainer in front of them. Hindi na ako kailangan maging 1,000% energy level because that's shared energy that we create. So yun, that's how improv has helped me as a teacher.
Pwede akong magdagdag doon, Gabe. Oo. Yung dagdag ko nga, I think yung lahat din ng sinasabi namin, nakatulong talaga yung improv. Doon sa sa pagiging mas tao nung student, or at least it reminded us again that the student
nilakihan lang kita para ma-conscious ka.
Oo nga, kaya nga tumingin ako sa camera. Is a student who is a learner na tao. Hindi siya, parang sometimes kasi policies can overtake you because policies have to be followed so that the learning has to happen. Pero palagay ko, part of trusting the process, part of saying yes, and part of being in the moment, kasi sama din yung, di ba, sa improvisation, ay being in the moment, kasi nga hindi mo nga nakikita kung ano yung nasa future. Yung policies are not there to para ikulong
To be
ka. Hindi siya
broken.
para
Oo.
Oo. Hindi naman sa meant to be broken and not to be read and given interpretation na iba, di ba? Pero you allow the policies to bring out the best in you, hindi to para ikulong ka. So parang mas nakikita mo na mas hindi ka mas tao yung nakikita mo, mas yung learner yung nakikita mo, hindi yung policies. Yung classroom ay made of the teacher and the students, not of the policies. Ewan ko kung may magsasabi ng ganun sa akin. Pero para sa akin, the classroom is not. Isipin ko na lang si Carl yon, hindi si Gabe.
Okay. Oo.
Pero yun, hindi siya policies. The classroom is not built on policies. It's built on the people making up the classroom.
And of course, honesty
is the best. No?
Sabi pala ni Charles, the modern learner must not only know how to provide meaningful answers, but learn to ask meaningful questions.
Check.
Yes. Meron ba kayong mga tanong for each other? Kasi part of our preparation for this, we will be fielding questions from the audience. And there have been a lot. Thank you so much for participating. By the way, but I also ask our guests to think up of questions that they might have for each other. But before we get into that, we'd just like to let you all know na merong Intro to Improv teaser class. This will be happening on Saturday, June 26th, and on Saturday, July 10th, 3 to 5 p.m. Also, meron ding mga teacher class on Wednesday, June 30. Ay, tapos na pala yung mga June, July na pala, July 7 and 10. So, just go to this link for registering to the improv class. And then, if you eventually join us for our regular term class, when you actually register for level 1, you can use this promo code at our site to get a 500 peso discount. Now, back to the conversation. Do you have questions for each other? Kasi pwedeng-pwede yun in the show when we're using the Socratic method.
I'm finished with my question.
I don't have a question.
We'll go through the comments muna habang while we are going through this. Actually, that was just a way for me to delay a little bit as I navigate.
Magtatanong ako.
Sige.
Meron na ba kayong nabuhay or na-tweak na improv game magiging purposeful and functional sa online setting? Kasi nung on-site mas madali yan or iba yun eh. Diba? Meron na ba kayong improv game na na-translate sa online setting for teaching?
Ako meron. I teach this elective called Clinical Legal Education, which is basically legal aid, no? Giving pro bono advice and counseling to marginalized communities. So one of my favorite tools is the disemboweled fairy tale. That's the game where you're supposed to tell a fairy tale that's commonly known to everyone, pero hindi ka pwedeng gumamit ng one particular vowel. And I've used that to illustrate how there really is a gap between the language of the law and the users of the law. So when students get into that frustrated feeling na hindi ko ma-express yung sarili ko, pero alam ko kung anong gusto kong sabihin at alam ko kung anong gusto kong maiparating dito sa kausap ko, pero hindi ko siya ma-express kasi merong balakid eh, 'di ba? There's one vowel that I can't use, so I have to sort of deviate yung story or whatever ganyan. I think that's such a that has always been a powerful point of reflection for my legal aid students, no? How to be more conscious about the way they relate to their clients and how to put themselves in a position where they will understand people who don't necessarily speak the language of the law.
Parang maganda yon. Parang the legend of usufruct. Please don't use the letter U.
Oo. Oo. Diba? At saka legal term din yung usufruct, no?
Oo. Without using the letter U. We still have a lot of comments. Teachers who don't invalidate feelings and thoughts, who motivate me by thinking and reflecting with me in improv can really help with that by not making pahiya and all of that. Elena Arnaiz says, this is learning and having fun at the same time. A great marriage between those two methods. Sobrang proud ni Socrates ngayon, Patring. Nakakakilig ang mga realizations mo.
Si Jeffy, meron ka na bang game na na-tweak?
Yes. Yung as closure activity, ginagamit ko minsan yung spelling bee. Yep. So
How? Could you walk us through that?
let's say for example, sa yung term na natutunan nila for the day, so i-spell nila yon and then they will create a sentence out of each letter.
For example, skirtsando.
So yun, i-spell nila yung skirtsando and then sabihin nila yung meaning through the sentence. So ganon ang gagawin nila. And ginagawa ko siya.
Gawin natin.
Skirtsando talaga.
Sa lahat
Pwede
naman,
bang parte na lang?
ano yung term? Oo. Pwede bang piano? Gano'n na lang po.
Para mas madali.
Music teacher, yes.
Yeah.
Ano? Skirt sa ano?
Skirtsando.
Skirt sando.
Damit ba yun? Damit ba yun?
Yung term na yun.
Sando. S.
C.
E.
R.
T.
S.
A.
N.
Hindi ka narinig, Gabe.
D.
O.
Skirt sando.
Skirt sando.
And then, yun, gagawa sila ng sentence after that. Yung
Gawa tayo.
mababalidate lang yung natutunan nila.
Go tayo sentence.
Sometimes
I
Play.
The
music
with
Powerful.
melodies
gently
using,
Skirt sando.
yes.
Sando.
Yun, it's a dynamic term.
So what does it mean talaga?
Hindi ko siya ma-explain masyado eh. Para siyang,
Kantahin mo na lang. Kantahin mo. Ayaw mo explain, kantahin mo.
Kantahin mo, Teacher Jeff. Or tugtugan mo ako ng beat.
Yes, Em.
Tugtugan mo ako ng beat.
Akala ko talaga damit
Wait
yung
lang.
skirt sando. May skirt ka,
Oh,
tapos
wait lang.
nakasando ka. Matching siya.
Akala ko rin nagbibiro si Gabe.
Oo nga, skirt
Hindi,
skirt na may sando.
Okay.
alos siya.
Ayan, meron siyang...
Ayan. Ayan. Yan!
Ayan. May flute na siya. So yun, skirt sando yun.
Yung, paano ko ba ito explain?
Oh,
Parang
gawin
yung
mo ang
attack sa
isa.
each note eh. Each note yung attack na nagbabago compared sa normal na magiging para siyang staccato pero it's in a different different feel. Napa-improve ako bigla, wait lang.
At saka nakita mo naman si Teacher Jeff using the props na meron siya. Meron siyang flute sa likod. Sinuwari niya kaagad.
Kuha
Hindi
agad.
kasi naka-stand siya eh. So, yun. Every weekend I teach flute.
Ang mga props ko lang dito, ganito. Ano ba naman yung props mo, Teacher Jeff?
So parang pagdating sa verse ng ang Pasko ay sumapit. Kung ano ganon.
Yeah, exactly.
Bagong taon ay magbagong buhay.
Accented each
Yes.
note. So may emphasis sa each note.
Kaya, mas naiintindihan ko, Teacher Jeff, na sinabi mong staccato. Yung ta, ganon.
Ang staccato kasi parang ganon.
Parang ganon.
So may emphasis.
So it's not flowing into each other. It's the distinction of the individuality. Yes.
Na-pressure ako, kinabahan ako. Ganon.
Skirt. Ready na ako mag-demo ng skirt tsaka sando, pero kasi improv in the classroom to.
Wag. So just to recap, kasi baka masyadong napasok na sa pagka-nerd yung ano. So after teaching a lesson, for example, in a normal way, you recap it by asking them to do a spelling game that spells out the key concept and then using it in a sentence. Ano naman ang nagiging reaction or benefit ng ending with a game like that?
Vini-video ko sila. So most of the time, tawanan lang ng tawanan yung mga bata. Lalo na yung sa ending na sabay-sabay nila sasabihin yung word. Sobrang fun lang. So, lalabas sila ng classroom ko na nakangiti, hindi parang ganun yung feeling.
Right,
right. Yeah. Share ko lang din, I also use that tool sa training with communities, no? And I found it to be a great tool or a great energizer because it's very non-threatening. You're only required to give one word or one letter rather than yung, di ba, tatanungin mo sila tapos you require a long answer from them. The very shy communities don't like that. But when you package it in a game like Spelling Bee where it's just one letter or one word and then they know that they're creating something together, makes it easier for them to participate. So it's a really great game or tool to use.
I think it directly references the old model of the pahiya school of teaching, where students or where learners might always feel the pressure of getting it right, getting it perfect. So tuloy ang nag-recite na lang yung matalino or yung taga-recite sa class. Doing something like this sort of upends that dynamic and allows people to speak from their so-called ignorance or from the honesty of their own wonder about the thing. Jeffy, you're gonna say.
And may I add, no, what I like about this, yung mga makukulit, especially yung boys, sila yung nag-volunteer to do it in front of the class. Spell sila, tapos biglang, whoa, gaganon sila, ganyan na sila and all. So, ang saya lang na mag-end yung class na nagtatawanan lang lahat.
Yeah, it gets engagement, enrollment from those who might otherwise push off and feel na wala akong contribution dito.
Magdadagdag ako dun, Gabe, na dun sa use, dahil nga sa language teacher that has taught also language abroad, may dalawang set ako ng students. One university kasi is really a university for foreign language learning. So yung attitude ng mga estudyante ay it's okay to make mistakes.
Right.
And so exercises like these that allow them na, you just lundagin mo lang, baby. Ganon. Take the leap lang. Gamitin mo lang yung words na alam mo, wala, yung parang wala mo ng tama o mali, sasabihin lang natin. Pagkatapos lang, saka mo sasabihin na, pag dahil gusto mong sabihin ito yung word na pwede mong gamitin, ito yung word. So it builds a more, ano tawag mo doon? Parang safe space. Paano ba yun? Yung parang okay lang kasing magkamali nga muna. Meron kasi akong set ng students na dahil top 3 university ng bansa na yon, top 3 university siya. So yung attitude ng student, shucks, hindi ako pwede magkamali. Mas takot silang, mas takot silang mag-games like these. Kahit na sinasabi mong it's okay to make mistakes. But it's the games allow for yung ganun, yung again, yung wala kang parang looser yung policies. Looser yung policies kapag game pwedeng magkamali. Ayun.
And I think it sheds light, sa kwento mong yun, it sheds light into how learning has become. In terms of, for some, learning means mistake avoidance at all costs. While another way of looking at it, and certainly something that we evangelize and espouse in improv, is exploration often is more exploration, and active experimentation is often a much deeper way to learn than pure mistake avoidance.
Oo, I agree. At saka siguro dahil nga 'di ba yung parang para yung perfectionist yung mismong yung inner critic minsan. Not that the inner critic should not be there. It's more of the inner critic can get so very parang ang lakas ng boses niya sa'yo. Lalo na kung lumaki nga tayo sa henerasyon na gano'n. Tama ba? Magkaka-generation ba tayo? Di ba yung gano'n, yung nagpapahiya, kung lumaki tayo ng parang, ano ka ba, mali kasi yan, gano'n. Rather than allowing for mistakes to happen and then allowing the student to, sige, paano ba na tayo matututo from there? So, yun.
Absolutely. So believe it or not, we've actually exceeded an hour already of talking about how we have integrated improv in our teaching practice, how it has helped us become better teachers. And I guess as a last round, what would you tell a teacher who has never heard of improv, who has never done stage, but thinks themselves as really, really good teachers? How would you encourage them to take up improv? And let's start. Perhaps let's start with the one with the most experience first. So we'll go with Ariel, and then Patring, and then Jeffy.
Siguro ang sasabihin ko sa mga teachers ay sa improv, natutuhan ko sa improv or mas naging mindful ako sa improv na it's about the students, that the classroom is a place for the students to learn. It's a really student-centered learning. Lagi namin yung sinasabi sa aming eskwelahan. Tapos mas napalalim ko siya while playing improv. And I think kung nakikita ninyo na ang lahat ng ginagawa ninyo ay para ma-encourage ang inyong students to learn, I think you'll appreciate playing and discovering improv also. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ariel Diccion with Ateneo de Manila University. Patring?
Ako siguro, that improv is fun, but it's also very deeply reflective. What looks like, simple fun games, non-threatening games, will let you think about who you are and who the people around you are. And that consciousness is very important when we're trying to determine what kind of environment we want to cultivate in the classroom. So mahalaga na kilala mo yung sarili mo, mahalaga na kilala mo yung mga estudyante mo, so that ano bang attitudes ang kailangan kong suportahan sa classroom na to make learning efficient, to make learning a good experience for both the teacher and learner. So, yun, parang improv is a great way to have fun, great way to meet people, but also you'll learn more about yourself and others through improv.
Thank you very much, Patring from the Ateneo Law School. Jeffy Kambal.
Masasabi ko lang, kung nung nag-aaral tayo, ay naturuan tayo kung paano, hindi naman sinasabi na lahat nagtuturo ng ganon. Kasi kung paano tayo natuto nung nag-aaral tayo, yun yung nai-apply natin kapag nagturo na tayo. So kung natuto tayo na may namamahiya na professor or teacher, nai-apply natin. It's never too late to change. You just have to open up yourself. Open your mind, your heart. Kasi nagbabago rin ng panahon. Even yung mga bata, nagbabago din. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeffy Kambal from Colegio de San Agustin. So thank you so much for joining us here, Eye to Eye Improv in the classroom. These are conversations that happen with me on Sundays, 10 a.m. Next week, we're going to have another conversation that improv isn't just all about fun and games and all of that. There are actually many, many life lessons, and they can change the way you live your life and the way you do other things in your life. So thank you so much for being great guests, asking wonderful, wonderful questions. We'll see you on the next episode of Eye to Eye.
Why should you study in Third World Improv? Because we're fun.
It's a great way to overcome your shyness, to get over some of your self-confidence issues, and to make new friends.
You should take improv now because what else are you gonna do? Because now is the time for you.
Because it's about time to stop being too preoccupied with those swipe rights.
It's time you take your life into your hands and make the most of it. It's time you make real friends who you know how to have fun with and who know how to have fun with you.
Hindi lang ikaw ang bongga, makakapagpabongga ka pa ng iba.
And we do this online.
In a fun way.
Duh!
It's about time to say yes to you.
Let's have fun!
Join us. Sign up for a class.
Basta, di ka na! Hintay-hintay ka pa dyan. Let's go!